In the art of espionage, subterfuge, and military matters, the necessity of secrecy is paramount. In the modern day, most of our messages are encrypted and sent discreetly and instantly across the world. Of course, the ancients didn't have access to these tools, so the question naturally arises, how did they send secret messages? In the Bronze Age, information was widely kept secret by simply being written. Widespread illiteracy meant only the educated were able to read. They would send illiterate messengers to transport their written messages. There was little risk of interception unless it was by another educated person. We hear of one particularly ironic example in the Iliad, wherein the illiterate Bellerophon delivers his own death sentence to King Lobades. Coming into the classical era, the rate of literacy increased to a level where they could no longer depend on widespread illiteracy to keep their messages a secret. These early attempts at secrecy led to some interesting methods. For example, leading up to the Ionian Revolt in 499 BCE, the Milesian Histiaeus sought to provoke his son-in-law, the tyrant of Miletus, to revolt. The ways to Miletus were heavily guarded, so in order to send a discreet order, Histiaeus came up with the idea to tattoo the head of a slave with the secret message. After waiting for the slave's hair to regrow, he was sent to Miletus with the instructions to shave his head to get the message. Of course, this was a very slow but very secure encryption method for messages, and we cannot imagine it was a common practice. Another important factor is that the method of encryption for the message could be understood by the receiver. During the Persian Wars, we hear about the exiled Spartan Demaratus who sought to warn the Spartans about the Persian advance. So he sent a wooden plate with the warning written on it. The text was smoothed over with wax to give the appearance of a blank plate. The receiver would then need to melt the wax to reveal its message. However, these instructions were not made clear to the Spartans, who were seemingly given a blank plate. It was only on accident that the Spartans melted the wax sometime later, revealing the message. So, as we've determined, good encryption is something that is both easy to encrypt and decrypt, and understood by both parties. The Scythe Tally, pioneered by the Spartans and coming in use around the time of the Peloponnesian War, met all of these requirements. The Scythe Tally was a rather simple encryption device, but it was quick to use and relatively secure. It comprised of a thin roll of papyrus and a wooden rod, called the Scythe Tally. The papyrus was wound tight around the wooden rod, and a secret message was written on it. Afterwards, it would be unwound, and the resulting scroll jumbled the message so that it became incomprehensible. The scroll was then delivered, and the recipient had a Scythe Tally of their own with the exact same thickness and length. They would wrap the scroll around their Scythe Tally perfectly as to align the letters and reveal its message. The Scythe Tally offered a quick and effective encryption of messages between Sparta's military command, although it was not without its limitations. The method of encryption simply rearranged the letters, meaning it would be possible with enough time to decrypt the message. It would also need to be filled completely to maximize its efficiency, otherwise it would be simpler to decrypt. It is for these reasons that it is debated whether the Scythe Tally was used more as a means of authentication rather than as an encryption device. The exactness of the length and width of the Scythe Tally made it significantly harder to forge a message without either Scythe Tally on hand. As such, each Scythe Tally would authenticate the origin of the message, and only make it intelligible for the intended recipient. The weakness of the Scythe Tally encryption is also seemingly evident by the numerous times in our sources where Spartan messages are made apparent to us. Although, perhaps, the Spartans simply placed too much faith in their Scythe Tally encryption. Thanks for watching. As always, the music is courtesy of Lysander, so why not subscribe to my channel and his? And special thanks to my patrons for the continued support.